Hey, hey, hey.
So, with Kyrie Irving set to miss the opening portion of this upcoming NBA season as he recovers from the ACL tear from last season, there is the big question of who will be filling his shoes in the starting lineup for the Dallas Mavericks. And the most likely answer, and the name that probably came to mind first for most of you guys watching this video, is D'Angelo Russell. He just signed a 2-year, $11 million deal with the Dallas Mavericks this offseason, presumably to be their fill-in starting point guard until Kyrie Irving comes back. Obviously, D'Angelo Russell, high pedigree guy, was the second overall pick back in 2015. And if you look throughout his career stats, he started about 90-95% of the games in his career. He even made an All-Star game back in 2019. But if you look more closely, especially at this second Lakers tenure, you will notice that he started to start less and less games as time went on, especially last season, only ended up starting 10 of 29 games because JJ Redick realized that he is not that great at impacting winning basketball. In fact, if you dig deeper and look at the Lakers records with and without D'Angelo Russell, you will see that there is a pretty big difference between the two numbers. Now, granted, there was the whole, Luka Doncic ordeal edition that the Lakers also got after shipping out D'Angelo Russell, but regardless, the point stands. The Lakers were a better team after D'Angelo Russell got shipped off. Now, luckily for Mavs fans, D'Angelo Russell isn't the only option here to take that starting point guard spot. There is another point guard on the current Mavs roster who I enjoy very much, and I personally think has a really good chance of usurping D'Angelo Russell at some point during this time when Kyrie Irving is still rehabbing. And that player is Brandon Williams. Brandon Williams is pretty much the opposite of a household name. He's bounced around on a lot of 10-day contracts, two-way contracts, training camp contracts, but he did eventually find himself in the Mavericks organization back in 2023. And then this past season, found himself a whole bunch of playing time after Luka Doncic was traded, Kyrie Irving went out with the injury, and the Mavs had pretty much nobody else to play at the point guard position. Regardless, though, it doesn't matter how you get the minutes, it matters what you do with the minutes, and Brandon Williams was overall very impressive during the short stint he had. Now, one thing to note, pretty much every game, all of the minutes he's played in his NBA career, whether it was back with Portland in 2022 or this latest stint with the Mavs, most of his games have been played in March, April, those end of season points where the bad teams are going full tank mode and emptying out their rosters, and the good teams are also playing the end of bench guys in hopes to get some rest for their better players. But the good thing about Brandon Williams is that it's not just the stats that are good. If you actually dig in and watch some games, some tape, he also passes the eye test. And we'll start with his shooting numbers. Now, in his career, he is a 32% three-point shooter, which is not great by any means. But if you look at just solely this last season with the Mavericks and the 33 games he played, he was a 40% three-point shooter on almost 2 attempts per game. And albeit a small sample size, 40% is a really good rate to hit at. Now, we've seen plenty of times in the past players will have one good shooting season and then it will be all downhill from there. So I don't want to write him off immediately as a certain 40% shooter dead eye every single season. But the jump shot looks good, especially in catch and shoot opportunities. He was north of 48% on those kinds of shots. So I bring this all up to say that he's not someone you can rely on to create his own shot from the 3-point line, but defenses have to respect him if he's left wide open on the perimeter. And on a team with a whole bunch of really good connected passers like Derek Lively, Cooper Flag, Anthony Davis, all guys that can handle and spray the ball out to shooters. I do think Brandon Williams could be at least a dangerous threat from beyond the 3-point line. Even if he's not able to be a 40% three-point shooter again, if he can just stay above average, that's a huge trait for him to have. More importantly, though, he's not just a good three-point shooter on the offensive side of the ball. I'd say his best offensive ability comes with him driving the ball to the rim. He is insanely fast, has a great first step, and was a walking paint touch for a lot of the games that I watched for this video. And what's great about Brandon Williams is that not only is he a blur and it's super easy for him to get into the paint, but once he gets into the paint, he's extremely patient, is great at finishing around the rim, and also has the ability to kick it to his teammates for some better looks. And just to give you some context on how great of a finisher around the rim Brandon Williams was this past season, here is a list of the best players in the entire NBA in terms of field goal percentage on their drives to the rim. Now, I did filter out only guys that took at least two of these kinds of shots per game. But as you see, Brandon Williams found himself at 14th in the entire NBA, remind you, on this list, a whole bunch of really good names in front of him. So for Brandon Williams to find himself even anywhere close to the top of this list, I think is a great sign for him. Definitely a green flag that these numbers are for real, and he is in fact one of the better finishers in the entire NBA. Yeah, at least at the guard position. And again, this is something that matches the eye test if you go back and watch the games he played in. He had multiple instances of him just absolutely carving up defenses, getting to the rim, and a lot of the times it didn't even matter how many defenders were in the paint with him. He was still going to get his shot off and make some just absolutely ridiculous layup attempts that really had no business even getting near the rim. But again, goes to show you Brandon Williams, a really great finisher at the rim. And as I mentioned briefly earlier, Brandon Williams also just an extremely patient ball handler, has a really good IQ with the ball in his hands. And although he's not gonna be the best playmaker ever or have the most assists ever, he is very much capable of finding his teammates, knowing that he has the scoring ability that defenses have to look out for. He's great at then using that as a way to make the defense care about him, so then he can dump it off to his teammates. For example, on this play here, he's gonna get the handoff from Dwight Powell, and he's immediately going to try and get to the rim. Brandon Clark picks him up, and rather than putting up a bad shot, he's going to Nash dribble along the baseline. Now, as you can see, Santi Aldama is already crashing into the paint, looking for either a rebound or maybe a way to contest the shot. But because of the fact that Williams kept his dribble, he now opens up a passing lane to a wide open Klay Thompson. What I also love about Brandon Williams as a passer and playmaker is his ability to use his eyes and really good ball fakes to help freeze the defense, which gives his teammates just that extra split second that is so helpful in the NBA to get a good shot off. On this play here, you're going to see him use a pump fake on the 3-point line to help get by CP3. That gets him into the paint, and then it's a really quick eye fake to look off the pass to Kessler Edwards that freezes Harrison Barnes, gives him enough time to go with the up and under layup for the easy bucket. Or this play here, it's just a really simple pick and roll with Dwight Powell. Brandon Williams uses the screens again to the paint, uses the CP3 yo-yo dribble ball fake to get even deeper and force Bismack Biyombo to commit to him, which then frees up the quick pass to Dwight Powell on the roll for, again, another easy layup. And then here's another example of Brandon Williams using his eyes to look off the defense and get an open look for his teammate. The pump fake gets De'Aaron Fox in the air. The drive brings Jeremy Sohan off of his man, also brings Champagnie off of his man Dante Exum on the wing. Exum does a great job of relocating from the wing to the corner. Now, Champagnie thinks Exum is still on the wing. You're going to see Brandon Williams look at the wing to make Champagnie close out in the wrong direction. In reality, it's a quick pass to the corner right on the money to Dante Exum for a corner three. But we got all of the really good stuff out of the way for Brandon Williams. Again, really good with the ball in his hands, can make plays as a passer and playmaker, can get to the rim and score, is able to hit threes when he is left open on the perimeter. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows for the 25-year-old guard. Because if you were already aware of who Brandon Williams is, then you would probably know he is officially listed at 6'1", 190, which for NBA standards isn't that great. And it can be very noticeable on certain plays here and there where opposing offensive players are able to just get to whatever spot they want when they are being guarded by Williams. Even guys like Keldon Johnson, who are not the best players in the NBA, are able to look really good when being guarded by Williams just because of how much of a cone he can be at times. So especially even if you think about a high intensity, playoff scenario, if Brandon Williams is on the court, it's very likely that opposing teams will attack him and pick and roll and put their best scorers to have one-on-one opportunities with him as a way to formulate easy opportunities, and it'd be a very viable strategy. Now, on the plus side, Brandon Williams at least gives a shit on the defensive side of the ball. You can tell that despite his disadvantage with his size, he still puts in 120% effort. He's always jumping in the passing lanes. Like most small guys, if offensive players bring the ball down to his level, he's got really quick hands and is able to poke balls away, get steals, and he makes just enough of the hustle plays where he's able to create extra possessions for his team that overall I don't really want to say that he's like a negative defender. He's not quite a plus defender, but again, he falls in that range where you can get away with, having him on the court for big moments because he will make enough hustle plays that I think it kind of evens out. Plus, at the end of the day, this is a Mavericks roster that needs good point guard play, which Brandon Williams can supply. Add in the fact that he's going to be on the court with some sort of group that involves like Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington, Najee Marshall, Cooper Flag, even Klay Thompson, even though he's ridiculously old and not that great on defense anymore. It's enough height and size that it could kind of mask the negatives that Brandon Williams might have on the defensive side of the court. So all in all, to get back to the original question of who will be replacing Kyrie Irving in this Dallas Mavericks lineup, again, I think the answer will probably be D'Angelo Russell, given everything that I listed at the start of this video. Especially opening night, day one, I 100% believe it will be D'Lo in that starting lineup getting announced with the rest of the starters. But I remain confident, in my opinion, that at some point Jason Kidd will give Brandon Williams a look in that starting spot. Maybe it will be a month into the season, maybe it will be 3 months into the season, maybe it will be post All-Star break when Kyrie's ramping up and they finally realize that D'Angelo Russell isn't that great of a player. Regardless, I just at least hope he gets a chance at some point because he's very clearly an NBA player, and I would just really love to see him get more opportunities on a court with the star players like Anthony Davis, um, Derek Lively, not a star player, but you get the point. That's all I got for this one. I hope y'all enjoyed this little return video I got here. That's all. I'll see y'all in the next one.